You've made it to Chiro Hustle Live. Sit back and learn from the greatest influencers in the profession. This episode is brought to you by Clothes for Chiro, Chiro Sushi, Barbara Eaton's 56-day chiropractic boot camp, California Jam, Move Well University, the Black Diamond Club, Pure Chiro Notes, the Chiro Dex app, Dr. Alok Trivedi, Chiro Spark, Chirogram, Chiropractic Wealth Management, 8 Weeks to Wellness, Integrative Freedom, and Element Mattresses. Let's hustle. Good morning, everybody. Jim Chester coming to you live. I have Jen Patterta over there. I don't know if she's in California or Tennessee, but she is a chiropractor. She's been practicing 15 years, and she is a rebel with a cause. She is taking care of people on all levels. We're going to talk more about her in a moment. But before that, I want to introduce our sponsor today, and that's Align Performance Institute, and that's Dr. Alok Trivedi. And their slogan is the science of maximizing performance and profits. So, sorry I read that, but that's the truth. They are maximizing performance and profits for everybody. So if you guys do want to know how to do that, control the mindset behind what you're doing, contact Alok Trivedi. He'd be happy to help you. So now is Dr. Jen Patterta. How do you say it? Patterta. Boy, that's what I get for practicing. So let's jump right into this. You've been practicing for 15 years. You're from Davenport, Iowa. Let's talk a little bit about what's going on.
Well, I homeschool my 4 kids. I have a practice that I've had for 15 years in Orange County in Southern California. And I am starting a practice and have started it outside of Knoxville, Tennessee. And I teach high school biology for the homeschool co-op. So I'm just a little bit busy.
Yeah. So you told me a very unique story. You spend half of your time in Tennessee, and then you spend 10 days after the 4 weeks in California.
I do. So this is my 4th year commuting. So I maintain a practice in Orange County, and it works out pretty well. So I'm at home. I'm in Knoxville area for 4 weeks, and then I go back to Southern California and I work 10 days straight and come straight back and continue my life here.
Wow. So that's pretty ambitious. When we were off the interview, I was like, wow, that's kind of crazy. But anyways, it seems to be working for you.
It is. And it works for my patients too. So so far it's a nice symbiotic relationship. So I'm going to keep that going as long as I can.
That's cool. So I'm going to just let the cat out of the bag. You are a 3rd generation chiropractor. You said that your grandfather or grandmother was a chiropractor?
My grandfather graduated in 1951 from LACC, and he was also a naturopath. And both my parents are currently still practicing, and they graduated from Palmer in 1975. And they're still practicing, like I said, and yeah. So, and they both do clinical nutrition as well. So I was raised in a chiropractic family and raised, I was born at home. I've never had any antibiotics. I'll be 43 next month, never any drugs, stuff like that. So it's just been everything. My whole life is chiropractic.
That's a pretty incredible story. And you went to Palmer Davenport for a spell, right?
I did. It was like coming home. So actually the house that I was born in, when I moved into College Court, if anybody, went to Palmer, they know where that is. It's right across the street from Palmer. I moved into the apartment there, and I looked out my bedroom window and I could see the house I was born in. And it was really awesome because I was able to meet all the professors and have some classes with the same professors my parents did. And so all the stories that they told me throughout the years, I actually got to meet these people. So it was awesome. But after one winter and one summer in Davenport, I was out. So
yeah, I get it. I was telling you also that I spent 30 years there, so I know exactly what one winter and what one summer can do to somebody.
Well, coming from California, that was a little rough, but yeah, so I transferred out to Life West, and that's actually where I graduated from.
That's cool. And yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, in my opinion, it doesn't matter where you go to school. It just matters what your philosophy is once you start opening your doors and taking care of people.
That's right.
And, a lot of schools, they're teaching less and less chiropractic. So we really have to, supplement our future students and our future chiropractors with, almost homeschooling. We have to homeschool them once they finish school with good philosophy and good technique.
Well, and that's where I feel like I was really blessed. I mean, one of my first classes at Palmer was with Virgil Strang. You don't get any more philosophy from anybody unless it's BJ himself. So it was an awesome stay for sure.
That's cool. And let's talk a little bit about you juggling being a mom, being a wife, and being a practitioner. Talk to the audience a little bit about your four kids being born at home and all that stuff.
Well, there's obviously no time off. It's I think on my Facebook page I have a picture that says, always working or always not, I'm always working. So, yeah, my kids, they range from 15 down to 6, and they were all born at home. They were all actually unassisted home births. So I figure if you want the job done right, you just got to do it yourself. So I do pretty much everything myself. I started my own practice. And, I have plenty of time with my kids and with my husband. He's been a stay-at-home dad for almost 15 years, or actually, yeah, pretty close to 15 years. So it's been, I really think that any chiropractor, or, for that matter, almost anybody, but especially chiropractors, and you own your own practice, you can do anything you want. You can make it look and feel anything like you want it to. Just people are scared. And, trust me, when I first took the leap to move out of state, and, like we talked about previously, we lived in an RV for a year. We were home free, not homeless. And, we ended up going to 46 states and traveled so our kids could actually see these places instead of reading about them in books. And then I would travel back to California and take care of my patients. And I told my husband, if this doesn't work, we end up cutting the trip early and go back to California and do exactly what we were doing before. But it actually worked. And we were both a little stunned, and it's continued to work. And this is my 4th year commuting. So I don't know. It's just, it's taking that leap and taking a deep breath and, learning to fly, really.
Honestly, I love your idea of detachment. And I love your idea of, time, space, evolution, what you can do with what you want to do and not being, almost like fettered and tied down to a brick and mortar. Like, I think it's super cool how you've transitioned your life to have 2 practices and to take care of people on your terms. And I made some references off of camera to you about, almost being Sigafoos-like and Gonstead-like. I think that is pretty awesome that you've drawn the line in the sand. You said, this is the way I'm going to do it. Do you mind talking to people about how you serve and what you do?
No, I don't mind at all. Like my office hours, is that what we're looking at? And how we do things?
I think that's pretty awesome because you're like, it's 5 something in the morning to 10 at night.
It was up until this year, and I realized that I was just working way too hard and way too long. So this year I work, I fly in usually on a Saturday, and I start work at, for all intents and purposes, 8 a.m. It's usually earlier than that. But so my actual hours are different usually, but from 8 a.m. until about 4 p.m. on Sunday. And then I'm back at the office at, same thing, 8 all the way through till 7, 8 o'clock at night. It's usually a little earlier, usually a little bit later. And I live myself about an hour for lunch, which, as we all know, those lunch hours never turn into a lunch hour. It's, 10 minutes of scarfing down lunch before the next patient shows up. But I do that Sunday through Saturday, and then I fly back Monday morning. So it's 2 full days of commuting. And I get back to my family and get back on track and get the lesson plans ready for my biology class that I teach at the homeschool co-ops on Tuesdays. So it's just, it's constant. And then I take care of patients here. I try to keep it to 2.5 days a week where I work full days. And so my kids know, and that's just how it works. But my husband's been home, so it just works out really well for us.
So tell me about homeschooling a little bit and running a chiropractic family. What is that like?
Totally organic. I mean, it's, we live so authentically, and I think that's what a lot of people don't do. They're so afraid to make different choices. What if it doesn't work? I'm like, what if it does work though? I mean, to be very honest, my son, he was the one, he graduated from, we put him in kindergarten, and he graduated from kindergarten. On the way home, he's sitting in the back seat at 5 years old and says, whew, so glad that's over. I don't have to ever go back. And I'm like, wait, what? So I said, no, dude, this is like a prison sentence. It's like, you got 20 years left, So, and he said, well, can't you homeschool me? And I said, I don't know. I mean, I guess, I don't know. I'd have to look into it. It was a terrifying leap, but I did it. And it was the best thing that we've ever done for our family. One of the best things that we've ever done for our family. So the kids are together all day long. They have their own curriculums. But they're best friends. We don't have any sibling rivalry. In fact, my oldest was at all of the births. I had them all, like I said, unassisted at home. So he cut the cord for the other three kids, and they've always been a part of each other's lives. And just like I said, we live authentically. And there's days that they're just, I don't want to do anything today. I'm like, fine, let's go do a field trip then. So we take off. We'll save the work for Saturday, and so we'll take off and go hike waterfalls or whatever we need to do. But it's awesome.
Wow.
Yeah.
You are super encouraging, and I think that you definitely go against the grain and you stand on one foot at a time, and then you just keep walking forward. And I think that's super cool. Having the four kids at home, I think, is like probably the best part of the story, and that's beyond being a chiropractor. And I think that shows like the strength of what it is to be like a woman, and not to fall into the indoctrination that you have to have a medical birth.
Yeah, I was an unassisted Frank breech at home across the street from Palmer. And I figured if my mom could do that, I could do it. I'm at least as strong as she is. So, my husband was terrified. He's like, I really want you to call a midwife. And I did. I called a couple of times, never got any phone calls back from this birth center where we used to live in Northern California. And I thought, you know what? It's a sign. And he's like, a sign of what? I'm like, a sign we're supposed to do this alone. And he was like, oh, it was just another one of my ideas. So, but, the first labor was 29 hours, and, I just trusted my body was doing exactly what it was supposed to do. I got adjusted in labor on all of them. It made a huge, huge difference in the outcome and the comfort for myself. And, we had complications. Don't get me wrong. We had oxygen there, and my second one was 4.5 weeks late. And, I had some hemorrhaging and stuff, but we used different things to stop that naturally. And they've all turned out to be amazing. So, yeah.
Wow. You've made it to Chiro Hustle Live. Sit back and learn from the greatest influencers in the profession. This episode is brought to you by Clothes for Chiro, Chiro Sushi, Barbara Eaton's 56-day chiropractic boot camp, California Jam, Move Well University, the Black Diamond Club, Pure Chiro Notes, the Chiro Dex app, Dr. Alok Trivedi, Chiro Spark, Chirogram, Chiropractic Wealth Management, 8 Weeks to Wellness, Integrative Freedom, and Element Mattresses. Let's hustle. Like, I'm in awe over here. Like, I can't even say your last name right, but I know that I know that what you're doing is something that people need to hear. I know also, let's switch gears a little bit into the topic of, becoming independent from the insurance game, and what it was like your first year and what that made you feel like, and then what you decided to do right away.
Well, I'm a good follower. I'm a good leader, but I'm also a good follower. So I listen, I pick up clues, I pay attention to things going on around me. And my first year in practice, I billed Medicare and I billed insurance for people. And I won't get into the details of it, but, basically they audited me, which I'm nothing but straight up honest. I don't overbill. I don't bill anything more than I would that I pay, cash patient would pay. Nothing. I'm straight up. There's no way anybody can ever come into my office and question any of my practices. I can go to sleep at night knowing that I live authentically. So I don't have that problem. But there was this gentleman that came in, and I billed Medicare 12 times for him for 2 visits, which was an excessive waste of my time. And so I essentially wrote him a check. He's since passed. So, but I wrote him a check, and I said, basically, you're no longer a patient of mine. I'll give you 3 referrals. I'm done. I can't do this anymore. And that really was, the breaking point for me. I wasn't about to play the game anymore. I wasn't going to be a prostitute to these insurance companies. So I basically told my patients, I'm not accepting insurance anymore, just so you know. And then I think maybe the year or 2 after, I stopped billing it completely, and I won't do any business with the insurance companies whatsoever. If they want to take the receipt and see what they can get for it, great. But there's no billing codes. There's nothing on there, because I just don't want to deal with it. So all my patients pay cash. Well, credit card, check, stuff like that. But it's a cash practice. And, the people who want my care, they stay. And the people who want to go somewhere else, they can. So.
Wow, it sounds like you've definitely revolutionized the practice model for yourself to be happy.
Absolutely. That's what it's about, right?
Yeah, and I think that's what you figured out to do on all these things. You see what other people are doing, and you go the opposite direction.
Well, I mean, I gave it a chance. I gave it a whole year, but it was a nightmare. I mean, you called Medicare and they're like, "Oh, don't check this box, check this box." So I resubmitted it, and they're like, "Oh, no, you weren't supposed to check that box. You need to uncheck this one." And this went on for 12 months, and I thought, this is a colossal waste of my time. And not to mention, I've got some, excuse me, but some idiot behind the desk who's never met the patient, who wasn't there for the exam, doesn't know the amount of adjusting that I do. I don't just adjust the neck and charge you and send you out. I mean, it's full body, full spine, appendages. I mean, everything that I can find, I will adjust. So they're getting the care that they need for sure. But I was I was done. I was absolutely done with this and wasting my time when I could be home with my kids. So I just decided that just we're gonna cut it off.
Yeah, I honestly think that me being a non-DC, I've seen like the inner workings of the system, and I think that honestly, it works in some people's advantage if they work straight PI practices to have like a billing specialist work with them. But typically, a small office that's running with one chiropractor and one front desk person, it just chews up the staff to do the insurance processing, and then it demoralizes the doctor to see the reimbursement checks that come in. And I saw a check the other day on somebody's post. It was for a penny.
It wasn't even
Like,
worth the price of the stamp to send it out.
I
Exactly.
get it, but
Well,
that's
and I
just
didn't have staff the first year. I ran my office. I opened it by myself. My husband was still living up in the Bay Area, and I was down in Orange County. And I was opening my practice by myself. And he was six. My son was 6 months old, and he learned to crawl at the office. He was there with me, and if somebody didn't like him crawling around, then they didn't have to come back. And most people didn't have an issue with it, but I ran my entire office off of one phone number for everything, and did everything as low overhead as possible. And I still do. I want to give the care that I need to give them, but I'm also not going to overspend on things because then I have to raise the cost of the visits for the patients. Somebody's paying for that. So I try to keep that low and be authentic about it. And, I did it all myself. So there's no way I was going to spend an extra minute dealing with these yahoos.
wow. Like you impressed me. Like I didn't really know a whole lot about who you were, what you were up to, but from our brief pre-interview conversation and now what you're saying, I think that it's very valuable for people to figure it out for themselves, but to also play the game their own way. You are the one that went to school for as long as you did. You are the one that incurred the debt load that you did. Now, why don't you go out and practice the way you want to instead of being dictated by a system that doesn't care about you?
Exactly. No, and at the end of the day, Jim, everybody has to practice what they feel that they need to practice. They need to be authentic to who they are. So fitting into some sort of box for somebody isn't going to work for them, and they're going to get disillusioned and start hating chiropractic. And it's really not chiropractic that they hate. It's the situation they put themselves into because they refuse to live authentically. So if PI is your thing, go get it. If pediatrics is your thing, go get it. If whatever it is, you've got to just live authentically and do exactly what you want to do, as long as it's honest, and but living authentically and making yourself and your patients happy is really what it comes down to.
Yeah, like everything you say just impresses me more and more. If there's somebody out there that's a young chiro coming out of school or that just got into their first year or two and they might not be having the most fun with the idea of business, is there anything that you could recommend to them?
It's hard because everybody is different. Every single person is different. So what I would recommend to somebody, it may not be authentically who they are. But really just keeping your overhead low, absolutely keeping it as low as absolutely possible. There was a chiropractor. She's still a chiropractor. She doesn't practice anymore because she basically spent herself right out of practice, and she got this huge office and did tons of build outs. And she had a chiropractic coach, which is fine, but the coach had her having 4 phone lines, an x-ray machine, all this stuff, and she didn't have any patients. And she was in a building that had 0 signage from the road. So I don't know where she was going with that, but I mean, this was the Titanic. You could see it ready to sink at any minute. So, that was something that I would have not encouraged her to do. And like I said, I had 1 phone line, I had no staff. I did everything myself, and I just scheduled the patients out a little bit further. And so I could handle everything at the front desk. So it's really about keeping that overhead low.
Yeah, I agree. Why work hard to pay someone else's bills?
Right? Well, and you have your own bills, and if you go belly up, then you're helping no one.
Yeah, and then you have to have your headspace right when you're putting your hands on people.
You got to be completely in the present. That was one piece of advice that my parents told me when I was when I worked for them. I started working in their office when I was 7. When I was 8, I started taking back patients, and when I was 10, I was developing X-rays. I don't know if that's legal. I don't know if that's child slave labor, but it worked out well for me. And, my dad had me looking at X-rays when I was 10, and we'd go to the mall and my mom was, going to pick something up, and we'd sit there and wait for her. And he'd be like, "What's wrong with that person?" I was like, "They had a stroke." "What side of the brain?" "The left." "Why?" "Because the right side's all jacked up." "Good." We'd go on to the next person. "See the gate on that person?" That's what we did for fun, And so when I got into practice, I was so excited. In school, they would say, "Oh, wait till you get into the real world." And I thought, "Oh, I can't wait to get into the real world. That world is so much more fun,
Yeah, it's encouraging to hear that you have a big mind and a big heart, and you take care of your family, you take care of your patients, you split time between 2 practices. I think it's very unique that you've carved out a path for yourself. And what did spur you to do the 46 state trip? What was like the breaking point that made you say, "I'm going to go do this"?
Oh man. So we had wanted to do this for a long time. My husband has, lots of grandiose goals and stuff like that. But he doesn't do anything. He's afraid to do things. His parents raised him to be very, very safe. Like, get a job at a corporation, stay there, get a good pension, and retire there and die. Like, that's not that there's anything. Yeah. Not that there's anything wrong with it. Some people excel with that. Me, it would feel like I'm in a coffin already. So we had talked about it. We sold our house. There was some laws coming through California that we were not super stoked about. And so just to head it off at the pass, we decided to just do it. And so we sold the house in case things came down the pipeline, and we started renting a house. We were only going to rent for 6 months, but we ended up being there 3 years. And one morning I woke up, I'm like, what are we doing? What are we doing? Not to mention we moved, we had a 3-month-old. So there was a few things going on. So that's what we did, is we decided just to take the leap and did it. So it worked out perfectly.
That's cool. I think that everybody out there wants to go experience more, especially when they're like actually practicing. They just don't know how to go do it. And, their big hoorah is a weekend event at like a big chiropractic gathering. And, they might take like a week off vacation, and then they feel like they're neglecting their practice. They feel like their patients are going to leave them if they take time off. Like, there's all these like headspace games when it comes to being a successful doctor, and especially one that, wants to grow a practice and sustain themselves.
No, it's true. And really, I worked crazy hours. Like I said, my 6-month-old was at the office with me, and I really needed to, I worked all the time. I worked 14, 17 hours a day at the beginning because I wanted to be there. If somebody wanted to come in at 7 a.m., I was going to be there for them. Like I didn't do any advertising, so I needed to put in the hours, and I did. But at the same time, I finally was getting to the point where I was starting to get burned out because I wasn't taking care of me. And I started to hate what I was doing. And I hated the whining and the complaining. And, it was all my perspective. It wasn't that the patients had changed. It was that I wasn't taking enough time for myself. So
And I think Dr. Jen froze on me, so I'm just going to wait to see if she comes back here in a minute. If she doesn't, I'm going to just wrap up the episode because she is not moving. So I'm going to just interject here. Jen, if you can hear me, I'm going to close out the interview with you. I am so excited that you joined me today for the podcast interview for Chiro Hustle Morning Edition. Once again, our sponsor today is Alok Trivedi with Aligned Performance Institute, and their slogan is the science of maximizing performance and profits. So if you guys want to maximize your performance and profits, reach out to Dr. Alok Trivedi. Dr. Jen Pederta, geez, you have such an awesome last name. I can't say it right. But thank you for being on the live stream with me today. Love and appreciate everybody out there that's been on with us. I'm going to jump off now, but catch me. I have another one coming up, I believe, at 2 o'clock Mountain Standard Time. We'll catch you on the next one. Thank you for listening to Chiro Hustle Live. Don't forget to subscribe and check back next week to continue hustling.